So in this video we're going to be going over tanking in Boss 1 and Boss 2 of the Iron Horse raid. Now at this point, if you're going, hang on, tanking in Boss 1, there's no need for a tank in Boss 1, you are absolutely right. Can't argue with that. However, there have been a few weird times in random groups in the Division 2 official Discord just doing LFGs where groups have struggled to get past Boss 1 because of DPS. Way to increase DPS without overhauling everyone's build is just to give everyone more survivability. And the easiest way to do that is to use Tardigrade. Just Tardigrade. So, on screen now, 3-piece Providence, using the gift, don't have to if you don't want to, Contractors, Fox's Prayer, Tardigrade and Sleipnir. And the second one that I like to use is Contractor's Gloves, Tardigrade, 4-piece Strikers. Sleipnir is the highest DPS rapid fire output you can get in a boss scenario, so it is absolutely needed to make up for the DPS that you have just lost. However, tanking on Boss 1 is 99.9% of the time just completely not needed. Anyway, on to Boss 2. Now for Boss 2 you will need a build similar to this. I've got a Hollow Man, just because I do, a Jarl piece, a Bellstone, 3 Uzina, a Point Man. You want to put Hasbro armor regen on everything. This will get you to 90%, and then with a Shock, Disorient and Ensnare resist mod, this will put you at 100% Hasbro for Shock, Disorient, Ensnare. And then when you're using Demolitionist, 100% for burn as well. Now the main role as a tank in Boss 2 is to read these codes that you can see here. Once you read these codes, you will relay that message to the person who is operating in the control room. Typically he is a healer. And then from there you just basically need to buff your team by use of Vanguard and keep yourself alive for as long as possible inside the Forge, which is not really that difficult to do. The main key here is you're going to be using Vanguard to help buff your team with use of over armor, Adrenaline Rush just to tide you over between the gaps, and then the main thing here is going to be utilizing Ravenous. You can get around this style of play without using Ravenous, but Ravenous is really sort of the clincher. It just makes tanking on Boss 2 so much easier. Now when it comes to reading the codes, this is probably the easiest way I can think of doing it. If you see an F, that's screen 1. If you see as P, that's screen 2. A C is screen 3. An R is screen 4. M is screen 5. And if you see a selection of numbers before another selection of numbers, that is screen 6. So here we are, error code M, screen 5. That's literally it. There are 2 things to be aware of when doing tanking in Boss 2. One, of course, is his wipe mechanic, which he just did, I should have pointed out earlier. But he has a wipe mechanic. There are ways in which you are able to cancel his wipe mechanic, but that requires a very specific build. The idea of these isn't to go overly complex, it's sort of to be like for example, the build I'm using here and the one that I have shown is a generalized Hasbro build that will literally complete all tasks in the Iron Horse raid that Hasbro is needed for. Boss 2, Boss 3, and then what we lovingly call Foam Alley. And that's basically it. There are more specialized builds that you can use for each of these depending on what you want, and perhaps at a later date I will go into them, but for now we're just going to stick Billy Basics. Let's get people starting to do the raid without overloading them with too much crap. Now the second thing to be aware of, I'm not sure if you can really see it, but on my UI in the lower right there's like a weird red flame icon. I think it's red anyway, I'm perfectly colorblind. It's hard to see, but it's like 80 stacks, no, 86. There we are, it's now at 90. When that reaches 100, you will start to take a lot more damage. And it's typically advised when it hits 100, do what you need to do, get out for a minute, let yourself cool down, and then get back in. If you are at 100% Hasbro, this shouldn't be too much of an issue. As you can see, I'm at 100 and I'm just still chilling out. I suppose you could argue this is where a little bit of experience come in. But if you're not at 100% Hasbro for burn in this situation, you will die. Right, now the boss has run off back to the train. This is his wipe mechanic. In a minute, you'll see a weird charging up icon. Looks like a flaming skull. There it is. Once that is full, he essentially explodes. When he does this, it doesn't matter how much armor you have, how much Hasbro you have, how much armor regen you've got, whether you believe in a flying spaghetti monster in the sky, it will kill you. End of. Now, for this role, you will need to have a good line of communication with the person who is running in the control room. The reason being is your main priority here is to stay alive and read the codes. As you can tell, it's kind of hard to see anything with a flamethrower in your face. You don't necessarily have to do a lot of damage to him, but the only way in which you're really able to consistently stay alive is by utilizing Ravenous, which means you're going to be doing damage to him, which puts you in a situation like this. Isn't it a lovely screen? It's very annoying. So you will need good communication with the person in the control room because they have eyes on when the code is up for you to read, as do you. So when the code is up, either I will see it or he will see it. Code R, that is screen 4. Problem solved. He will then read the code on screen 4 to relay it to the others. The quicker you can all work to get through this, the less painful it is to stare at him with a flamethrower. So good communication here is absolutely crucial. Now, as a quick side note, at one point we have to break weak points to move the Crucible forward so that we can complete the event, which I've covered in other videos. The reason I've gone for Hollow Man Mask is these weak points are pure health damage. I also have an AR on me with 21% health damage. Now, obviously, where I've gone for a tank build for pure survivability to stay in this situation, I have no crit. So the only choice I really have in terms of damage, if I have to break the weak points, it's very rare. Luckily, Helvin here was helping me out with the weak points and he's able to do them pretty damn quickly. But if we're in a situation where people have gone down or the person that was assigned to break the weak points is suddenly starts doing something else, and essentially what boils down to, I now have to break the weak points. I've gone with Hollow Man Mask because it gives me the most damage opportunity to break those weak points as quick as possible with the absolute level of piss poor damage that I actually do with this build. It's not ideal, it's not really going to be something that you come across too often, but I like building for those just in case scenarios. You don't have to use Hollow Man Mask, a Jarl Mask will do just fine. Most of the time they do come with Hasbro on them already, or at least armor regen, so it's completely workable if you don't. It's just that extra little bit of safety net just in case, and that's the only reason I have gone with the Hollow Man Mask. Now, assuming there's been no cock-ups, you will read a code 5 times to get the Crucible up and full, at which point the weak points will be broken, which Helvin has already done for me. It is now at this point where waters come into effect, which is something that you don't have to worry about. Anything that you need to worry about is run to the front, get yourself to this water cannon, and wait for water to be cooled. You have to be in here before water is being done. Otherwise, you kind of end up being too late. You lose pressure, have to reset the entire scenario, it becomes a ball ache. After you've squirted your load on this molten looking tank thing and you get that weird sparky effect and it goes solid, you can now dismount the water gun, which I completely forgot how to do. And we're 100% not going to talk about it. Once you've got yourself off the water gun, hopefully he won't do his wipe, but luckily we've got a revive hive. Good example of the simple fact of he will just one-shot you regardless. But yeah, revive hive is good here. Once we're back up and running, we need to lead him towards the group. Once we've got a little bit of bonus armor and can survive moving around, we need to lead him towards the remainder of the group, which is located typically at B airlock, so that they can do their damage. We need to be ready with a grenade here. Well, we don't need to be. He has a very, very long, boring, drawn-out death animation, which can be cancelled out simply by just grenading him or an explosive sticky. So, yeah, typically just throw a grenade at him when he's about to die, and he'll just insta-die, rather than take 30 years. It's the only reason we throw a grenade at him. It just stops him whinging and complaining for 10 years. Throw a grenade, get it done in 2 seconds, move on with your life. And that is boss 2. Have fun, good luck, don't die. It's bad for the health.